All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of A Fresh Perspective with Jeff Charles, your favorite chaos agent. Jeff Charles, I'm here. I'm back with you. I've got my magic water jug, and I've got another excellent conversation with an excellent guest, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I've actually been looking forward to this for a while. But before we get into all of that, you already know what to do. Like this video, share this video, hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell. That way you'll be updated whenever I upload a new interview. Also, check out my new Substack called Chasing Liberty. I've been writing a lot of cool stuff on there, so if you already like my stuff from Red State and Newsweek Opinion, check out my Substack and please subscribe. That really helps to support my work. And plus, you're going to love it. There's no reason why you shouldn't become a subscriber of my Substack, as well as my podcast and YouTube channel, and all the things Jeff Charles. Now, without further ado, we're going to talk about some Republican politics. Now, you guys already know I kind of left that movement, but I'm a political commentator, which means I got to commentate. That's what I do. It's like Chick Hearn and the Lakers. He didn't play basketball, but he commented. That's what I'm doing here, and I can't think of a better guest that I could have right now in this day and age than Miss Christy Kelly from Humanity Assemble. Like Avengers Assemble. How are you doing, Christy?
Hey, Jeff. So I feel honored that you are hanging out with the Republican today.
Me too. And we've been going back and forth on Twitter for a little bit. I like to heckle you sometimes and to poke fun. You know me, that's how I roll. But I always have a lot of fun, Miss Pollyanna. So
I was laughing. Okay, he called me Pollyannish yesterday because of my optimism, and we're gonna get into why I'm so optimistic. But I was laughing all day about that.
Good. Hope. Maybe you can give me a few reasons to be optimistic. I don't know. That's a very tall order, but hey, I'm here for it. But before we get into everything, why don't you tell everybody about yourself?
Sure. So I want to say I'm a little probably unorthodox. I have jumped feet first into politics. So with politics, I've been doing a little bit of commentating. I've been doing a little bit of poking. I've started writing, and then I just launched Swing Your Vote. And so Swing Your Vote is a 501c4. It's going to be a political action group. And what the whole premise beyond Swing Your Vote is, you're not going to be able to go into Black America or urban America. I'm in Arizona, so I have to say Black and brown because that's what's out here, right? So it's you're not going to be able to go into the urban areas and red pill them. You're going to have to slowly bring them into conservatism, get them to vote their values. So I'm saying swing your vote. You may not become, a registered Republican, but just go to independent. That is the fastest growing lane in Arizona. So I'm saying become independent and make us earn your vote. And then I'm going to tell them why I'm no longer a Democrat. I've been a lifelong Democrat. I recently just swung my vote. So that's the stuff that I'm doing politically. Now, on the other end of it, I am a mediator. I have my law degree, and I specialize in fathers' rights. So that's what I've been doing that's what I've been doing for about 15 years. So, if a dad has an issue, he can't get, he needs his child support lowered. He needs more time with his children. I sit down, I attempt to mediate it. Now, probably about 10 years ago, I realized there was a disconnect with our fathers. It's not that they didn't want to be there. It's that, maybe they needed an expungement. Maybe they needed some job skills. Maybe they just needed a mentor. A lot of men have childhood hurt and have never sat on somebody's couch and just talked about it. So I started a nonprofit, Humanity Assemble. And what I do is I'll match them with the services that they need. And a lot of times what they really need is a life coach. Now, how many inner city people do you know that have ever, hey, I need a life coach? That's not in our vocabulary, right?
Not at all.
A lot of times, or what do we usually use for therapy? The church, right? Mm-hmm. We need professional therapists. We need life coach. They need mentoring. So that's what I do through Humanity Assemble.
Wow, that's awesome. If I'd have known that, I might have had some more questions for that. I'll have to have you back on and we can talk about your work there because there's a lot there. I mean, that I'm sure a lot of people don't know about. But there are a lot of men going through these types of experiences. I've known some, so definitely want to have you back on for that. Um,
Sure.
I wanted to ask you though, when, and why did you swing your vote after being a lifelong Democrat?
Yeah, so I have a Substack. Let me plug that. It's under Humanity Assemble, and I just wrote
Mhm.
about it. So really, I've always been conservative, and I've known that I was conservative. My
Okay.
parents are, they're registered Democrats. They vote Democratic, but I grew up in a conservative two-parent, Christian household with very conservative values. So I've known that I was conservative. But I really bought into the, stigma that Republicans are racist. And,
Mhm.
and when I started looking at the Republican Party, and I was like, they're all in cowboy boots and hats and American flags everywhere. Like, oh no, no way.
Sometimes Confederate flags.
Right, right. So I was like, no way, no, I cannot do this. So I was actually in law school, and I remember it was a classmate, and I feel like he cornered me because he's like, come, to dinner at my house with me and my wife. And so I went there. It was almost like an intervention. And they sat me down and they started telling me about why I should be a Republican and why I already was a Republican. And I remember looking at him like he was crazy. And it's so funny because, I mean, no shade to weaves or anything, but back then I had either long hair, my hair, or a weave, just very over the top. I used to wear, anyways, we won't get in that. So anyways, his wife was just very natural, had locks. They homeschooled their children. They were just very earthy people. And I was just like, who are these people, right? Like, there's no way. So fast forward, I'm a homeschool mom. I have logs, right?
You do.
I'm conservative. Like, I totally was everything that he was telling me about conservatism and Republican. But what really got me, so that kind of planted the seed. And I kind of negotiated. You know how you negotiate and you bargain with yourself? I was like, well, maybe I'll be a blue dog Democrat. Maybe I'll be
Mhm.
independent. I even turned libertarian. So what, a year ago, 2 years ago, I was libertarian for a minute, right? I was like anything
We're gonna
but
get you back.
huh. Anything but Republican, right?
Right.
And so finally, Joe Biden, right? That's what did it. I was
Oh,
like, no,
really?
no, Biden is what did it. Biden and my husband. But we'll get into that. So
Okay.
finally, I was like, yep, I'm done.
So here's a question that I've been asked when I was more in the Republican circles. Why not be a blue dog Democrat? Like, I know what my answer is, but I wonder what yours is.
No. So I think also, so originally I'm from California, and we decided we were done with California. So we actually moved to Mississippi for 4 years,
Oh,
right? So,
really?
yeah. So I was in
Okay.
Mississippi for 4 years. And being in Mississippi, I really got to live, the Republican experience, right? And I
Sure.
really got to see that even though they had Confederate flags and they had the cowboy hats and they had the American flag everywhere, they were really like the most genuine, salt of the earth people. Like, some of those people I still call my family,
Mm,
right? So that
wow.
was when I was really like, I am a true Republican. I'm not even
Mhm.
libertarian. I'm a true Republican. Now I still have some liberty values, but I'm really a Republican. And the Democrats don't help anything. So that's why, like, no. And you're not going to push the needle trying to move the party and be a conservative Democrat. You're just not.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, that was kind of my answer. There was no point to being a blue dog Democrat because one, they don't really exist anymore, really. I mean, not like they used to.
Right.
And they have no sway over the Democratic Party. Now, it's funny that you mentioned like there's no way you're going to change the party. That's how I felt about Republicans because my beliefs have always, not always, but for the past like 4 or 5 years, they've been more libertarian than
Mm.
conservative. I mean, I still identify as conservative in my personal life. Like I try to live a more conservative lifestyle, but politically, I am more liberty minded. But my thing is that I wanted to see if I could get the Republican Party to basically do what it says it does, right? Because their platform, in a lot of ways, is very libertarian. The
Right.
problem is that they get elected, then they govern like diet Democrats. So to me, it's like reform. I just gave up on reforming it. Now, I don't knock anybody who's still trying. I understand why, but I felt like my platform was better used for this movement. And there's some other factors in there too. But I wanted to find out, and I want to probably circle back to that like Jen Psaki, but I wanted to talk about black voters and things like that. But first, I mean, we had something happen yesterday. Not a very big news story. Ronnie D announced his candidacy for president. And you were out there sipping on that haterade, sis. I saw you. I saw you. I'm like, you're always getting on me for knocking Republicans and Vivek Ramaswamy and all that good stuff. And we're going to get to him in a second. But you were out there hating. I want to know, what do you think of Ron DeSantis?
I have to control myself with that because I think, how there's just like that one person that just irks you. And even though my policy is, we don't want to burn the party down. I know you want to burn the party down, but we don't want to burn we don't want to burn the party down during the primaries. But It's hard when it comes to DeSantis because I genuinely do not like him. And there's nothing that he can do at this point to get me to like him. And there's not, because I just think he's so disingenuous, right? I think that he goes too far with the culture issues. And it's not enough policy. It's like, what is your economic policy? What else are you doing? I mean, it seems like every other word is woke and Disney, right? And so I just genuinely, I took great joy in his face melting down. I did. I took great joy in it. I also think, so this is where my libertarian, shallow roots come in, is he is very big government. And I don't think that a lot of people see that. And for me, that's an automatic no.
So there was a lot there. I mean, and I actually wrote an article for Newsweek today talking about, like I said, I don't have a dog in that fight, but I still comment on it. Being anti-woke ain't going to be enough. I mean, but here's my thing. But I was always complaining about how he was big government, and a lot of people didn't want to hear it. And like you said, they don't see it. I mean, he used the government to punish a corporation for disagreeing with the bill. And here's my thing. I was even trying to tell people, I don't necessarily disagree with what he did, because I don't believe like in corporate welfare and the government picking winners and losers. It was why he did it. Why don't you think people see this stuff? I mean, because even if you're a Republican, you can still say, I prefer DeSantis over Trump, but I don't like what he did there. There wasn't even a whole lot of that.
I mean, I think I'm a purist. I think you're a purist. I think I can clearly see the flaws, even in my own party. I can see the flaws in myself, right? Sure. A lot of people pretend like they can't, right? And if it's benefiting them, they don't mind big government. They don't mind being ruled. They don't mind being dominated, as long as we're owning the libs or we're, owning the whatever movement we're against this week. They don't mind the means, that it takes to get to it, as long as they're on their side. Now, what they don't see is how quick that could be used against you. I mean, they should know after COVID, but apparently, they haven't learned that lesson.
So let me ask you, what part do you think what I'm about to say plays into this? Because I mean, there are a lot of conservatives, moderates in the Republican movement, but with the rise of the MAGA movement, it's gotten a lot more populist. How much do you think that's playing into this? Because I've noticed a lot of people say they're conservative, and I tell my audience, not everybody who's on the right is an actual conservative. A lot of them, they may think they're conservative, but a lot of them are more populist. How much do you think that's playing into some of with people being more okay with big government on the right?
I'm in ground zero. So I'm in Arizona, right? And I'm a Carrie Lake, Republican. So I consider myself America first. I don't consider myself MAGA, because I think you would have had to have been around and down for Trump at that time to be MAGA. Sure. I think you kind of have to, have earned that. And it's definitely populism. I mean, it's definitely more populism than it is, natural conservatism or natural, liberty. That's why it's funny, I think I still have in my bio that I'm a liberty conservative, and I'll get wrapped. If I have any libertarian friends yet left, which I doubt if I do, but the one or two that still stuck around, they're like, that's impossible. And to somewhat, I agree with them. I think it is almost impossible to be, liberty and Republican. They just don't go together right now. If you're
So that's a very interesting point because I agree, but why do you say that?
Because the Republican Party has become too much big government, right? We claim that we want small government, but when you really look at Ron DeSantis and how he's ruling with the iron fist, from the governor's mansion, we
You are
succumb.
going to get in trouble.
No, because the bulk of my people are MAGA. I'm not MAGA. I consider myself America first, but the bulk of my people that follow me, I mean, come on now. You see the way when people come for me, like, it's all of my followers are mostly America first MAGA. And there is a strong divide, right? Mm-hmm. The people that are riding with Trump are riding with Trump. I got cussed out in a space from, I won't say his name, but it was a MAGA person because I mentioned my experiences with Vivek. Now, I haven't endorsed Vivek, right? Mm-hmm. But I literally got cussed out in a space just for talking about my experiences. So yeah, Arizona's a little different. In general, it's a little different over here.
Yeah, that's like cultish behavior. That's weird. That's kind of creepy. So here's so actually, let me ask you this. If DeSantis gets the nomination, which I don't think he will, but if he does, will you vote for him?
I cannot imagine any Democrat that I would vote for over any Republican.
Okay.
There's no way.
Okay.
And I don't do, this will probably get me in trouble, but I don't do protest votes or purity votes. Like, even when I was libertarian, it would have been hard for me to necessarily vote, just because it's a libertarian person, if I knew it wasn't going to, move the needle at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So would it be fair to say that you prefer Trump over DeSantis, or is there a different candidate, or are you still trying to decide, or?
Next question.
So before we get to Vivek, I wanted to run something by, because I know you interact with Scott Pressler a lot. Yeah. And he's been on Twitter every single day saying Ronna McDaniel won't call him. Why do you think that is?
First of all, I adore Scott. I got
the
chance to meet him when he came to Arizona. He did a training, excellent training, very informative. So I don't know if you've had a chance to meet him yet, but really.
Yeah, I've met him a couple times.
Yeah, his trainings that he's doing right now, especially after the whole Carrie Lake debacle, is really good. And I think it actually inspired what she just came out with as far as, she's going to start chasing ballots.
Okay.
But as far as Ronna, I don't know. I mean, why? They reelected her. So why does she have to listen to anybody?
Ooh, you're starting to sound like me now. Because here's the thing. I was talking about this on a space the other day. One of the reasons why I jumped ship and I gave up, like I said, there were a bunch of different factors. It was also some things that the Liberty Movement was doing, which, by the way, they have their issues too. I know I knock Republicans and Democrats all the time, but the Liberty Movement isn't perfect either. But there were some things that they were doing that were encouraging to me. But one of the things that made me jump ship wasn't just the results of the midterm elections. It was the fact that the regime that did that was also exposed as having wasted tons of money. I don't know if you saw that report on Red State by Jennifer Van Laar in December that talked about their budget and their expenses. They're spending over $1 million on travel and private jets and all other stuff. When I saw that, and they put the same people back in charge, I was like, okay, y'all don't want change. I'm done. like I was already going to do it anyway, but I was like, that was a final nail on top of the nail in the coffin, and yet she's still in power. Then I see Charlie Kirk come out on Twitter after that vote happened, and he had been speaking with people behind the scenes with some of the with the delegates, and he was saying, people would prefer Harmeet Dillon. A lot of people wanted her. A lot of people.
She would have been so good.
She probably would have been, yeah. I mean, it's hard to get worse than it is right now. But I mean, but the thing is, those delegates were honest with them and said, we don't care what the voters think. We don't care. We want Ronna. That's it. I'm like, your party doesn't respect you. They don't even like you. And
Right.
good luck changing it. But that was my thing. So to me, it's like that's why I said you sounded kind of like me. I mean, I don't know how that stuff changes. I mean, do you?
I mean, it's really the premise of swing your vote, right? Because
Mhm.
like I always tell people, if you're independent and make people fight for your vote, if they think you're going to go
Mm.
somewhere, that's when you start having power, right? Every year, what do we chase? We chase the swing states every single year because we never
Mhm.
know where they're going to go. The Republican Party, these people aren't going anywhere. Where are they going to go? They're not going nowhere,
Yeah.
right? Now they may sit home. Now that is the thing about Republicans, unlike Democrats. Republicans will take their ball and go home. So that is the threat that we're facing if Trump does not get the nomination. The hardcore
Mm.
MAGA is not voting for DeSantis. They are staying home and sitting on their vote. So that is one thing. But as far as, the delegates and everything, they're not going anywhere. So that's why they were okay to like still do what they wanted to do as far as Ronna. Now, why they are so tied to her, that part I don't know. But I really don't put that much stock in it because even though I also am trying to push the Republican Party to do certain things, like I think they need to be opening up field offices in the inner city. They need to be
Right.
opening up field offices in blue cities. I'm calling for that, but we can't sit back and wait for them to do anything. We're just going to have to do it ourselves. And that's what Scott's been doing a great job of.
Mhm.
So I don't think I think now it's more like a nod, but he's not waiting on Ronna. He's doing his thing.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I've even been telling Republicans probably for different motives than you, but I've been telling Republicans, think about how your party treats you. They treat you the exact same way that Democrats treat black voters. They'll do
Yeah.
whatever the hell they want because they know they're going to get your vote anyway. I mean, you're not even going to stay home. You're going to vote for them no matter what they do to you. I mean, now, and I agree with you about Trump getting the nomination because if he doesn't get it, Biden's going to be in the White House again. Not just because of the MAGA people staying home, but because Trump's going to burn everything down as much as he possibly can, whether you
Oh
like
man.
him or not. You know what his ego is like. He is not going to throw his support behind any nominee that is not named Donald J. Trump. So
No.
they got to look at that.
Yeah, yeah. No, and you're right. But I always tell people there definitely was something fishy that went on in Arizona. But the part that people don't talk enough about is the McCain Republicans and the people that
Mm.
actually formed PACs against America First that were actually running the elections, right? So if it wasn't for those two factions, like if Republicans would have just coalesced around Kerry, I think we could have outvoted the cheating. I
Mm.
really think we could have.
Yeah, I mean that's the establishment against the
Yeah.
anti-establishment. In that case, the establishment got what they wanted. Um, so let's talk about Mr. Ramaswamy.
Okay.
Uh, he was in Chicago. How'd it go?
It went so well. So we just filmed a podcast about it. So it's on the
Okay.
Humanity Assemble podcast. It's actually just posted it a few hours ago. Haven't even put it up on Twitter. But
Was it
we
on
did.
YouTube?
It's on YouTube. Yeah.
Okay, Humanity
But we did
Assemble. Everybody check that out.
Humanity Assemble. But we did like a little debrief about it. So it was Kathy, Devin, Tasha, and Stephanie. So the people that helped, the local people there, Chicago. And of course, Kathy Barnett, who helped put it on. And we talked about it. It went very well. Like I was nervous. I had knots in my stomach going out there because this is really the first time that a Republican has gone Republican candidate
Right.
for president has gone into the inner city and to go into Chicago. And it wasn't just like, he didn't just go stay for 30 minutes and leave. He
Okay.
stayed it was like 9 a.m. to like 1 o'clock. It
Okay.
was like half a day.
Like half
I
a day.
mean,
Yeah.
we had the whole town hall, and then we walked across the street to the barber shop, and then we took this long walk. It was supposed to be 20 minutes. I think it was longer than 20 minutes.
Mm.
It had time to be sunny, rain, and stop raining before we got to the school.
Oh,
And
really?
he's just walking and letting people come up to him. I mean, he had security, but the streets weren't shut down. It was
Sure.
minimal security, and he was perfectly comfortable. So I think it went well.
Okay, so obviously I'm going to put my feelings to the side for this, but
Thank
because
you.
yeah, I want to get your I really want to understand how it happened and what your perception was. What do you
Mhm.
think motivated him to come?
Well, I definitely, I know that he saw the viral video and he immediately called Kathy and he was like, I want to go to Chicago. Now, 2 weeks before that, you remember,
Wait,
I
which
filmed
viral video?
where the residents were on the stairs and they were, going off
Right.
about the immigrants coming, right? So
Okay.
he saw that and he reached out to Kathy and said that he wanted to come. Well, if you remember, 2 weeks before that, I kind of had my pitchfork out and I was kind of leading the charge because I was pissed about a lot of stuff that he was saying, especially about Black fathers, because the statistics were
Mm,
wrong. I felt like the tone was wrong. He was saying it in
narrative.
front of
Yeah.
white audiences. So I was really, going at him on Twitter. So he was like, well, come debate me. And so I was like, okay, but I didn't just leave it there. I mean, Trisha, his campaign manager, I kept on her. I was like, okay, he said, so I was like texting her, emailing her, reminding her, like, okay, when is this going to happen? When is this going
Hmm.
to happen? This is going to look real bad, if this doesn't, come through because he's busy. So I
Of
would
course.
have
Yeah.
gotten kind of like who am I? Right. So I would have got kind of pushed to the side because he's doing like all this important stuff. So the next thing I know, they're like, okay, we want you to come to Michigan. So we go to Michigan and we had an honest talk for 30 minutes. And I told
Mhm.
him exactly what we were saying on Twitter. And I was like, again, we're
This
in
was on his
middle.
podcast or offline?
This was live. So this was
Okay,
during a town hall, but after the town hall, we filmed a podcast, but we had audience members that were also live.
I see.
So,
Okay.
and I told him, I said, why I flew into Detroit, but we're in the middle of nowhere again in a white space. I said, why aren't we in Detroit? And he was like, let's go. And, and my main thing to him was like, you have to, if you're going to say these things, first, you need to lead with empathy.
Mm,
We don't need to be reminded of our problems. We know the problems. Like,
yep.
come with the solutions? What are the solutions? And say them to Black people. And his main thing was like, I don't know if I could fill a room of Black people. And I was like, well, if you can't fill a room, you can fill a table,
Yep.
And then I was like, you know what?
You
I
got
was
to
like,
start somewhere.
you got to start somewhere. And I
Mhm.
was like, or, you can go to the barber shop. That's where organic conversations happen. Or you can go to like a coffee shop or, just go somewhere where Black people are. Right.
Mhm.
And 2 weeks later, he saw the Chicago thing. And, I guess that kind of seed was planted, in his head and
Mhm.
he did it.
So, what were some? I mean, I know a lot of people had a lot of things to say, but what were the questions and comments that came from the audience that stuck out to you the most?
They hit him hard on reparations.
Ooh,
They hit him hard on reparations.
I bet.
Um, the one that particularly stands out to me is a young lady. She stood up and she said what she had to say about reparations, and that
Mhm.
there would be a boycott. They wouldn't be voting for anybody. And then even afterwards, when he started speaking, she was like, "Are you going to cut that check? Are you going to cut that check?" Like that's the only thing she wanted to know. And he was like, "I'll tell you what checks I'm going to cut." And then he goes into how wants to give, because in Chicago, each student is basically $20,000 is what goes into the educational system for each student. So
Okay.
he's like, I'll give each family $20,000 because you know how to educate your child better than the state, right? So that
Mhm.
was one thing he said. And so he started talking about his policy proposals to put more money back into the hands of Black people.
Mm.
So I thought that was a good pivot. I thought that was a smart pivot. And
That's
he
smart.
was honest to his message. Yeah, he does not believe in reparations, but he also told them how his policies would put more money back into the community. Another thing was the boys. So I posted the video of the young men. I don't know if you saw it, that were there. And it kind of pissed me off because when I posted it, I almost immediately wanted to take it down because, again, I have a lot of, MAGA people, a lot of white people that follow me. And some people were like, we can't understand a word they're saying.
I
And,
saw that.
and I'm like, those of us that it was meant for can understand perfectly. So just keep scrolling. But basically, these young men,
You said that a lot nicer than I would if I were you.
Yeah, like I honestly really wanted to take the video down, and I'm glad I didn't, because for everybody there, even for Vivek, he said that was the highlight of his trip, because
Mm,
here are these, 5, 6 guys who are inner city kids. A lot of them are still homeless.
mm,
Tyrone, who's the gentleman that was on the stage, spent 2 decades in jail. Now he's a mentor to these boys. So he
nice.
brought them in the room, and it was very organic because they were at the back the whole time, and I'm standing at the back because I'm helping facilitate, and I'm filming on my iPad, and they're mumbling like the whole time, like they are talking mad mess the whole time, these boys,
Hmm.
because they're like, this is some BS, and mostly they
Of
were
course.
talking about not Vivek, they were talking about the Black people that had came to see Vivek, and that's
Ooh.
basically what they said. They were like, y'all pulling on Buddy, but we don't know y'all. We live right here. We ain't never seen most of y'all.
Mm.
And so he was like, we need to, y'all trying to get at this man. We need to do for self, is what that young man said.
Doesn't sound very progressive, does it? So what was the issue? Were a lot of the Black people there not from Chicago, or were they from different areas of the city? Or
Oh no, they were all from Chicago. The
okay,
Black
that's
people
what I
there.
thought.
But the young man, I mean, you know how, political people do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to wonder how much they, really have their fingers in the community versus, you know, their political I'm such and such, right?
What kind of criticisms, whether it was them or other Black people in the audience, what kind of criticisms did they when they got up to speak? I mean, what did you hear?
Besides reparations, what were the other criticisms? That was honestly the big one
Hmm.
that I can remember. There wasn't even a lot of people that hit him on, particular rhetoric that he had said.
Well,
Um,
they probably didn't see it. I mean, most people
yeah,
don't pay attention to that stuff.
no,
Yeah.
Jeff, this is what it is. So, Twitter is this fishbowl, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because my husband is not political,
Hmm.
but he is, very, savvy when it comes to certain things. So he listens to outside stuff, but
Hmm.
he's not, on Twitter every day. He just got
Right.
on Twitter like last week. So, anyways, he likes Vivek, and he's like, I didn't see anything that he talks about, racism, because he's seen his long form interviews where he talks
Right.
about economic policy and everything else. Twitter amplifies, he talks this much
Hmm.
about Black people. And I didn't know that when I was leveling my criticism about him. And I shut my ears. I was like, I don't want to hear nothing this man got to say. I don't want to watch anything. So then I'm on the plane and I'm like, oh, shoot, I'm going to do this podcast. I should probably do some research.
Hmm.
So I'm on the plane the first time that I actually listened to a full long form interview, and it was the Reason interview. They didn't mention race at all. He didn't mention
Right.
race at all in that interview. And so even on the plane out there, I think like my mind had started to change a little bit even
Hmm.
before I sat in front of him.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I mean. I mean, only certain things get amplified on social media. And especially if you're not on social media every day, you're probably not going to see a lot of what he says anyway. But if you do, it's going to be the stuff that gets most clicks. Well, guess what? It's 2023. Race is going to get all the clicks. So,
Yep.
it does make sense. Um, so I noticed that you and Devin and some others were getting a lot of flack for even hearing him out, even letting him having him come and speak to people. Tell me a little bit about that feedback.
I think one of the biggest things were Chicago and other gatekeepers, because we didn't go through them,
Mm.
right? So
Republican or Democrat?
Republican. Like
Okay.
Democratic doesn't even register on my radar anymore, right?
Okay.
So it was Republican, like Republican,
Really?
yes. Oh, yes. And that's been my whole thing anyway. I feel like because people think that I've came out of nowhere, and because I kind of keep to myself, and because I'm not part of this clique or that clique or this group or that group, they're kind of like giving me the side eye, and they're trying to figure me out. And because I'm not easily, boxed in,
Right.
yeah, I'm not colorblind. So no, there's not that. Right. Um, you know, I have natural hair, and I have a Black husband. So no, there's not that,
Oh,
and
shade.
it's not shade, but I'm just saying the things that people try to they're trying to figure out, how can we attack this girl? You know what I mean? Like, how can we attack her? And I mean, they'll figure out something, right?
Of course.
But so far, they haven't been able to do it. And even like when I met, Devin and them in person, because they really only talked to me in the planning stages. And then, I come in from out of town, and they were like, you were so personable and you fit right in. And I'm like, I'm just a down to earth person. Like, I can relate. I'm, to various types of people very, very easily. But the flack we got the most was not going through the gatekeepers, going around the gatekeepers. And that's all I'm going to say about that. You can interpret that however.
No, I'm going to say it for you. If you're mad about it, you should have been doing that shit yourself. Don't get mad when other people come and do what you were supposed to be doing. I know a little bit about the GOP in Illinois, Chicago. I've interviewed Devin before, so I'm not surprised. This happens all across the country. There's all this gatekeeping, this backbiting, this whole, they want to be. They want to be the magic Negroes in the room. They're not all black. I get it, but it happens. I'm like I said, I'm saying it for you because you know it's true. Like, I've heard about this in Florida, everywhere. I mean, even with Black Voices for Trump, there was some of that going on, and it's been entrenched for a long time. I'm glad that you still pulled it off anyway. I thought a lot of the flack that you were getting was from other Black people who thought you were,
I was getting to it. So that was one set of the flack. The other set of the flack was people thinking that we sold out and he's a racist, and we're providing the photo op and we're covering for him. And so there was that whole other, group of people as well.
Yeah, and that comes with the territory. I mean, usually they're brain dead, so I don't pay attention to them.
Right. And then I even got flack, like I said, from MAGA people. Right? Like, you're being disloyal, to Trump, even though they just are making assumptions, right?
So that was a cult coming after you.
So I got it from all sides.
So I wanted to ask you this. I asked about some of the negative comments. How receptive do you think some of the people were there? Did you get any positive feedback from the people who were there, or did you see that maybe some might be a little bit more receptive? Or
I definitely did. Now, some people felt like, because it was him and then Tyrone, and then there was a Hispanic pastor also on the stage. So some people were like, we just wanted it to be just him, kind of like in the hot seat type vibe. But we were like, no, we intentionally did it that way because he was listening, right? He came to listen. He didn't come just to talk. And he needed those organic Chicago voices there also to help field questions. And it worked really well. I think for the most part, people were shocked. I think people were shocked because they're not used to dealing with Republicans. And so they were like, a lot of things that he was saying, Tyrone was also echoing from two very separate sources, right? But it was and they came after Tyrone, saying he was bought and paid for, and nobody got paid a dime from this. I guarantee you. But a lot of people felt like no, we are conservative, and I was so happy that Tyrone was able to give voice, being an ex felon, because that is one subsect. I always say the extreme poor and people with criminal records, we don't even attempt to try to approach at all. Like, those are the two groups that just kind of get almost tossed to the side. Like, we don't even deal with them. And he even said, you're missing votes. Like, our rights should be restored after we've served our debt to society. Like, Republicans are missing a natural group because when they are really reformed, they're conservative.
You are absolutely right about that. Yeah. I mean, and you're right. Republicans are missing an opportunity, which I've been saying for years. And to be fair, I mean, there are a lot of Republicans who want to make a difference and actually see the importance in reaching out to other minorities. I mean, I actually interviewed Mike Huckabee a couple of years ago,
Mm.
and a lot of people don't know this. When he ran for governor, he got 49% of the black vote.
Wow.
A pasty lily white Republican got 49% of the black vote when he ran in Arkansas. And we had a conversation about it. And he said, I said, how did you do it? He said, well, I asked for it. And that was a
Yeah.
simplistic answer. But he said that, I mean, because he took over for another governor who had to step down. So he served for like maybe a year or two before he had to run again. But he didn't wait until election season. He started going into black communities, talking to black leaders, speaking
Yeah.
at black churches. The reception wasn't always very good, but he kept at it. And you know what? He did very well for a Republican back in '96, I believe. And he even, like, I think in the early 2000s, he even went to the RNC and said, "We really need to start reaching out to black voters. I did it. I was successful. Here's what I did. Let's talk about it." And they blew him off. So I mean, and this is him telling me this. I didn't
Right.
deduce any of this. He told me, and I'll send you the interview one time. Maybe you can check it out.
Right.
But when it comes to Vivek, what, if anything, do you think changed? Do you think his mind changed on anything as far as how he messages about the black community, or do you think he has a better understanding? Or
So yeah, so again, my number one rule, especially with politics, is the 80-20 rule, right? So you're never gonna like you should not look to fall in love with anyone. I think, a lot of us fell in love with Obama and it just bit us in the butt, right? Like that's what we get.
do you know what
So
I do? You know my saying about that?
no, I don't.
Politicians are like hoes. You ain't supposed to be loving them.
Right, right, right. And if you do love them, it's probably for some fake artificial reason, right? That's going to be revealed later, like Obama. But I digress. So with Vivek, I think that he is open to conversation, right? I think has an open mind. He is willing to, like I said, on our podcast, don't expect, a total, 360, but I
Right.
think he is able to be turned a little, softened a little. And it really started with Adam, like Wrong Speak, right? He did a podcast with Vivek and he told
I
him,
saw that.
lead with empathy, like just change your messaging, a little bit. And then I came right behind that and I, basically echoed the same thing. And then now with hearing from Chicago, now I'm not going to go on a limb. Like, matter of fact, I think he posted something the other day that I was like,
Really? Oh,
it's going to happen. I'm not going to agree with everything. I'm not supposed to, right?
yep.
But I have not seen him with the harsh language against black fathers. Now,
I haven't
he may
either.
post it tomorrow, but let's hope that he's learned to lead with empathy. And I think he has.
Yeah. I love Adam Coleman. Shout out to Adam Coleman. That's my boy right there. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, but I mean, I noticed that I wasn't seeing, and maybe I just was just missing them, but I didn't see a lot of clips of him talking about black people after that. So I don't know. Maybe he's recalibrating. I don't know. I mean, I'm
Well,
always cynical, but still, it's possible. I
well,
could
he
be wrong.
also said that the Chicago trip has been the number one influential thing so far to him in this campaign.
Oh,
And
really?
I've noticed that he's still posting clips, like he's still posting content from the Chicago trip. And he's also said that he's going to go into other inner cities. And then he just posted today a shout out that everyone needs to be going into cities. Don't give up on the cities. So
Yeah, I
that's
saw
right up
that.
my alley.
That leads me to my next question. Do you think any of the other candidates, primary candidates, will do the same thing?
I think they're going to be pulled on to do it, especially if Vivek star keeps rising, right?
Mhm.
The way it is. If he gets just a little bit more shine nationally and he sticks with this message, they're going to have to. They're going to have to. And this is what the Chicago crew, Devin and all them said. If nothing else, he has jump started their conservative movement. And I
Mm,
thought that was so powerful. It's like
mm,
if you show up, right? Like you're jumpstarting Devin and Latasha and the work that they're doing. And the thing, I'm glad I remembered this. The amazing thing about him, you're not going to believe this. He did not collect any data. So no signups, no emails, no phone numbers. There was even a guy that walked in and I had to tell the people at the door, he got a backpack. Like, I'm gonna need y'all to you know, but he just came. He didn't come to pull on anyone, ask anyone for anything. I've never seen a politician not collect people's data. Because that's
is very
powerful.
interesting. It is powerful. I mean, and that's the thing. I've been saying for years, the first 50% of it is just showing up. like make yourself known. Say, hey, I'm a Republican. Let's talk. And they won't even do that. Some do. I'm not going to say all, but I think from Vivek, that's one thing that they'll see. He showed up, and you know what? I mean, I pick on Republicans for that too. But even with libertarians, they got to show up too. They said they historically have not shown up in
we got to definitely do this again, and we'll have a whole talk about why I'm no longer a libertarian.
Okay.
And it's mostly, I'll give you a hint, it's mostly Mises, and I came in right at the takeover. And
really?
so all the stuff that was blowing up online and the Martin Luther King quote, and it was just a lot. It was a lot.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be good conversation.
But I love Angela. I love Angela. I think she's a sweetheart. I think she's
great.
Here. So yeah, shout out to Angela the chair.
Yeah, I mean, and I was watching that stuff from afar, like the Mises Caucus and all of that. And I really looked into it. I'm like, yeah, a lot of these guys are cringe. A lot of them are. And I have no problem saying that. Just like they're in the classical liberal caucus, a lot of that is cringe too. A lot of the woke stuff in the liberty movement, that's cringe too. But I mean, to me, like in the liberty movement, and we'll have a conversation about this too, but I haven't really aligned with any caucus. In any caucus, I'm going to have things that I like about them, things that I don't like. I prefer to be more of a free agent. And I also know that the crazies in whatever caucus it is, they don't always represent the rest of them. But I do know they shook a lot of things up. It's very interesting. So we'll definitely have to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Why do you think, Christy Kelly, why do you think that the GOP has struggled to get Black voters? I mean, to people in my audience, that might sound like a silly question, but I want your take on it. What do you think that they've been doing wrong?
I mean, the label has stuck that they're racist, and you and I know that they're racist in every party that there's racist.
Yep.
Like every party, like there's racist. Now,
sure,
you probably call me Pollyannish because one of my policies is I don't go around calling people racist. I don't go around, talking about white supremacy, this, white supremacy, that. I point out behaviors and I label what the behaviors are, but I feel like everything has become racist, so nothing's racist, right?
Yep.
But as far as the Republicans, so that they have that label and then they don't show up. They don't show up. They don't even try for the Black vote. And we're still, Blacks are still falling for the rhetoric of the Democratic Party. And unfortunately, there's a lot of Black Democrats in power, that make it
tap dancers
that make it appear that they're doing something.
Yep. Tippity tap, tap, tap. Yep.
Yeah. But I think if we get that, that's why I'm so into what I'm trying to develop with Swing Your Vote, right? Because if I can just pry people away from the Democratic Party, just be neutral, just be independent. Because what would happen if a mass exodus of inner city Black people or, Black and brown in Arizona just dropped off of the rolls and became independent? Then they would have to show up. They would have to pay attention to what their needs are. They would have to go into the cities and fight for them. That's why another reason, I know a big thing that's going on right now is this protest vote, right? Where not voting is a protest. And I do think that that's viable, but the way that I've kind of been explaining it is it only works if they know that you have the propensity to vote, right? If you ain't never voted, ain't never showed up on a roll, they are not worried about you. Like you
Right.
could just stay over there and just protest vote all you want. They're not paying attention to you. They're not listening to you. They're not, you're not a pack. You're not powerful. You're just talking, right? But I say vote bottom up. So register to vote, even if it's independent, vote bottom up. I don't care if you just vote for the trash collector, right? If they see a mass of people, independent, showing up at the polls, voting down ballot, but not voting the top of the ticket, I think that's a protest vote.
Yeah, you're speaking more of my language right now.
I wish. I mean, reparations people don't like me.
But to be honest, they don't really like anybody whose main thing isn't reparations. Like my thing is, I'm actually for reparations, but it's not my main thing. I don't talk about it all that often. Sometimes I'll have conversations about it, but there are people who are just all about reparations. They don't care about anything else. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Good luck, whatever. But yeah, a lot of them turn people off. Not all of them, but
if any reparationists like hear this, like the two pieces of advice I would have for them is form a PAC, fund the PAC, vote, register independent, all of you guys, vote bottom up, even if it's just one or two, and show them that you're serious, that you're at least capable of getting a mass numbers of people. But even the reparationists are split in like 3 different factions.
Yeah,
I'm like,
they are.
We need to knock it off.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and there are some that I really have good conversations with, like Brother Naheem. I like that guy. Marcel Dixon, I like that dude too. Those are really the two that I rock with. But it's not. They're very knowledgeable, very knowledgeable. Yeah. Like they can debate anybody on this and win. But they're also willing to talk to people that are outside of their orbit. So I respect that. But I wanted to ask you a question, and this is going to sound like I'm challenging you, but I'm really not. This is an honest question.
Okay.
As far as getting Black voters to pull away from the Democratic Party and maybe go more independent, which I think it's healthy. I mean, because obviously, what my agenda is. I want them libertarian, but if they're independent first, some will go libertarian, some might go Republican, whatever. But I think that's healthy for anybody. It's healthy for people to have that kind of attitude. You got to earn my vote. But to me, it's like we had the Blexit movement that basically said it was kind of trying to do the same thing. You had #WalkAway movement that basically said that they were trying to do the same kind of thing, and it hasn't worked. I mean, there have been Black people who have gone more to Republicans, but most of that, I think, is because the Democrats suck so bad. So more people are willing to give Republicans a shot. I mean, that it has to be because Republicans don't show up. So what do you plan to do that will move the needle that these other organizations didn't? And I'm not asking to knock anybody. I'm just saying, it hasn't worked with them. How's it going to work with you?
Right. I think so. If you're looking at those two, and I had to ask myself this because I almost joined the latter, the walk away, right? Because that's honestly what I did, right? I walked away.
You did.
But again, every group has its baggage, and both of those have independent baggage, right? There's a certain type of people that are going to join Blexit. I never would, right? And there's
you mean Wexit?
I don't even, anyways, let's leave that there. The walk away. It's going to take a certain type of messenger. Now, it's not just me, right? So Humanity Assemble is my whole family. We do it as a family.
Okay.
So let me tell you a little bit about, who we are as a family and why I think that, us going into the city, into urban areas is hopefully going to bring more people and hopefully going to catch fire and bring like-minded people to come and help us. Mm-hmm. Hopefully. Yeah. Go to Humanity Assemble and definitely leave me your information. So my husband, non-political, he also protests, votes. But he is so conservative. He didn't even realize he was conservative.
Oh, really?
During the Trump era, and I'm getting back to your question, but during the Trump era, he started sending me information. The first thing he said when we got married is, I hate politics, so don't even mention it. So I didn't mention it. But he's from Compton, Born and raised in Compton.
Nice. That's where my dad used to live. I'm from the LA area.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah. So I
City of
assumed,
Compton.
right? I assumed he was liberal because he's from Compton. He has to be liberal, right? He started, after we got married, he started sending me like all of this stuff. And it was like QAnon stuff and just like far right. And I was like, he is so conservative. And during the Trump era, we would have we never fought except for Trump. We would have knocked down, drag out fights about Trump, to the point where Trump was banned in our house. Like we could not talk about Trump, couldn't mention him, because I was putting him in the position of having to defend Trump when he didn't even like politics, but he understood what the media was doing to Trump. So I say that to say this. My husband was the biggest person that kind of helped take the scales off my eyes and kind of helped me to be able to like see the tricks of the media and to be able to see that all that matters is the policy. What policy is going to help the Black community, help our family, get government out the way, and let us do for ourselves. And those that can't do for ourselves, let organizations like Humanity is Simple come in with mentorship programs to then help people that can't, get out of the situation that they're in.
And you're still a Democrat at this point, right?
I'm still a Democrat. Yeah. Okay. So, but he was able, and I'm telling you, if I can be converted, because I hated Trump. Now I'm like, Trump was right about, I don't know about everything, but he was right about a lot of stuff. Yeah. Trump was right about a lot of stuff. The media is horrible. I used to live on CNN. So I'm just saying, I am evidence. Like I was a hardcore, like anti-Trump. I, can't stand him. The CNN all day long. So if he, can plant the seeds, get me to see, the tricks of the media and, the tricks of what's going on, I think we have the winning message, the both of us. And then we bring into that we're raising our kids. Right. We're homeschooling one, the other one is in public school. And I think it's the winning message. And we're so different that you're going to vibe with one of us. Because if you don't vibe with me, you're going to vibe with him, one or the other.
So, but your husband isn't political. Why is it? What got him on board with this?
I know. I had to do some coaxing because I keep, as long as I make it more about, which it is, Humanity Assemble, and less about rah, this politician or that politician, he's 110% on board because his whole thing is family and community. And he really is one of the people that believes, like, if he could, he'd probably move. Like, we probably would have stayed in Mississippi, bought like 2 or 3 blocks and just had the family in, on the blocks and just governed ourselves. That's the vibe that he's on.
I love this guy. I love this guy.
He is on the vibe that we don't need government to do anything for us. We just need them to get out of the way. Yeah, that's the vibe.
Meet him at some point. I got to meet this guy. I love him already.
You actually met him. So at we just didn't get a chance to really talk. So at which again, this is the plan. So I'm at my evolution that I'm leaving the Democrats, but I'm not sure where I'm going. So where do I go? Solutionary, Maj's Solutionary. What was it called? The Solutionary Conference
Summit in 2021.
In 2021, me and my husband went there because he loved, her name is escaping me, Angela.
Oh,
he loves Angela.
That's my girl right there. I love Andy King.
So that's how and of course, he's from Compton, Muslim. His name just left me.
Shoot.
We got to think of it before this. We can't do him like that.
Yeah.
But anyways, he, so he was all on board to take the trip to Miami. And that's when I really saw, like, I had already seen Sunny online, but I saw Sunny, I saw you, I saw Angela, even though like I Angela is, but I'm like, okay, conservatism doesn't have to be boring and they don't have to be all stuffy and corny. Like that was the other thing, like Black conservatives don't have to be corny. So that really ignited like, okay, I can do this. I can be conservative, whether it's, libertarian or, whatever. But you know what I did after that? I muted all of you guys online. So that's why you muted you, because in my mind, I knew that I wanted to jump into politics, and I didn't. I needed to develop my voice and who I was going to be and what my message was going to be. And I feel like if I would have interacted, or if I even would have just listened to you guys after that, that I would have been, parroting, Maj, or parroting Sunny, or parroting. And I didn't. I needed time to develop, Christy's voice and my message and what I wanted to say, before you guys said, it sucked or whatever. So now you can tell me it sucks, and it's not gonna hurt my feelings because I'm true to myself. Like, this is who I am.
Yeah. I mean, and I can respect that. I don't care whether I disagree with somebody or not. Like, if I know that they really believe what they say they believe and they're not lying to me or trying to manipulate me, I don't have to agree with them on everything. I respect people who are willing to say what needs to be said. And I think there's a room for every voice. I mean, there is a room for Pollyanna. There is room for people who are more cynical like myself. I mean, we need all of it. But yeah, that's funny. I didn't realize that you were there and that your husband was there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. So we're running out of time, but let's see. Last question. Let me ask you this. When we're signing off, because we're going to do this again, definitely. What is it that you would want people to know about your objectives and what you're trying to do?
First of all, it's a little scary, right? Because even with Swing Your Vote, there's going to be a lot of Republicans that aren't going to support it, because I'm not telling people jump off the rolls and become Republican. So I don't care what the other groups say. They were saying that, right? Nobody was really pushing become.
You're right. Yeah.
They were saying that, but I'm really saying become independent, because I would never tell somebody who didn't know what they were walking into to become Republican. That's not going to be a popular message, but I don't think the Republican Party has earned that, right? Ooh. Like, Ronna.
You are getting in so much trouble.
I mean, it's the truth. We got to show up. We got to show up. And the other thing is I have a day job, so I don't get paid, of course, I would love to do politics, full time, but it's not paying my bills. So I'm not bought and paid for, right? Sure. So what I say is what I say, and my methods is my methods. So I think that would be the most thing, is like, I'm authentic to who I am. And 98% of what people say, it really doesn't faze me.
Good. It shouldn't, because especially in this game, it's tough. I mean, I've been doing it for like 5 or 6 years, and sometimes you learn the hard way. Don't read the comments, and don't, dive too much into it, because really a lot of the opinions are dumb anyway. But
yeah, I remember some guy got mad at me, and he literally posted a picture of my hairline.
You see?
I was like, my husband likes my forehead. I mean, that's the thing too. It's like, when you have a happy marriage, and when you have friends in the real life, and when you have a day job, it's like, you can just kind of let that stuff,
I mean, the thing is, I feel bad for those people, because have you ever seen somebody do that and they're, intelligent or happy?
Yeah.
I haven't. I mean, there are some miserable people. And I really believe that. Like, I think that they're very low IQ. They can't make a point, and they're not happy. Happy people don't do that. I'm sorry. They just don't. If you're satisfied with your life, you might be a smart ass, or you might disagree with somebody on Twitter, but you're not going to go that far. I mean, that's just stupid. But I digress.
Oh, I got one more thing. You got to bring the history lessons back. Do you not do those? Because I just randomly, I don't even know how I found that, but I was like, this is amazing and great. Like, do you still do those?
I haven't done one in a while, yeah, but you're right. Yeah, I do need to bring those back. I mean, because people really liked that, and I still get comments on it from today, especially like with the Lily White movement. Not a whole
Yeah.
lot of people do a content on it, so when people look it up, they see my video.
Hmm.
I got a lot of compliments on it, but I really want to do one. eh, on the history of the FBI, the history of the FBI's corruption, because
Nice.
there's a lot that people don't know. But I don't know if I'll do a video on it, but I want to do at least a series about it on my Substack, and then maybe I'll turn that into a video. But yeah, I really do want to focus more on history because the main reason is the more you read history, the more stuff sounds familiar today. It
Right.
really does. Like,
Yeah.
especially with the FBI. Like, you look through the history, and I'm like, wait a minute, that stuff is happening today, just under different packaging. So
Yep.
yeah.
It's all on a loop.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to put it. It is all on
Yeah.
a loop. So what before we sign off, let everybody know where they can find you and all of your awesome stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, so humanityassemble.com that will have all of my stuff. Swing your vote. It'll also have my mediation. It'll have my father's right stuff. It'll have links to my Substack. I am on Twitter at Kelly for Humanity, so that you can find me there every day. Jeff, stay out my comment section because you
No,
blow them up.
I, I can't promise that. Yeah, I'd be lying to you.
Yeah, this was fun. So let's do this again for sure.
Most definitely. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Bye bye.